Hello, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Businesses podcast. I'm Paul and I'm joined by Ian and Ken. And today we're going to talk about email marketing. We've talked about it in the past. It seems to be a popular topic. Email marketing is still one of the most effective marketing channels for small businesses, even though it's been declared dead about 10,000 times. It has a low cost and a high ROI, and it can help move customers along the path to purchase your product or service. But it has to be done correctly. You can't just decide one day to start blasting out 5,000 emails if you've never done any kind of email marketing before. So Ken, can you talk about that a little bit, why that's a bad idea, and talk about building, maintaining your list, because it all starts with the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's one thing that I think maybe the most important thing for a small business to think about, it's building a list. Because once you have a list, you can keep going back to that list and asking them to buy from you again, to refer you, to to write a review about their experience with your business. It's just absolutely incredibly important. And today it should be easy and cheap. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. If you don't have a customer relationship management that's a true marketing customer relationship management system, get it today. And if you need help, contact us. Now, why you want to build your list and you want to try to do it as organically as possible. So how do you do that? Well, every time somebody fills out a form on your website, you can send them an email to say, hey, we provide, weekly tips on, whatever it is that your business, and it does provide value, and give them an opportunity to sign up right then and there. You might even be able to politely start to send them a couple of things. You absolutely need to have an unsubscribe. I mean, that's absolutely critical when you're doing this. Ask people to learn more about your business by signing up for your email newsletter on your social media sites. You can have calls to action on your website. There are just so many different ways that you can do it. Now, plus you take all of your customers, export them out of QuickBooks or, your transactional email system. If you're using, Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, exporting those contacts, putting them into, your email list, is a great way to get started. They already know you and like you and trust you, hopefully. That doesn't mean you have the permission to blast out a bunch of emails to them. So if you haven't ever done that before, you need to go through a process of what's called warming up your list, and you need to warm up your email system. And if you don't want to send thousands or hundreds or even dozens of emails out from a personal Gmail account, Yahoo or any of these. You want to use legitimate email marketing tools, ideally from a customer relationship management system. You want to, but you want to warm it up. So you might, even though you have maybe put together a list of a couple of hundred people, maybe 500, it doesn't mean that you want to send the same email out to everybody all at once. You might want to send it out in batches to just warm up that list. Let the email system, let the IP internet service providers for the recipients all get comfortable and familiar with the fact that, hey, this is an email that's coming from this business, and you just want to warm things up. If you go too fast, you're going to freak out the systems, rightfully so. And they're going to say, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe we need to mark these as, blacklist them and not deliver these emails because we're trying to protect our own reputation. And we don't want somebody to get a bunch of emails that aren't relevant to them. So if you haven't warmed up your system, then look, there's plenty of ways to do it. There are a bunch of articles, there are a bunch of tools to do it. But the key thing is you absolutely have to be building a list. And the best way to maintain your list is to keep sending to it. So once you start sending emails, keep sending to it. any credible email marketing solution inside of a CRM or a standalone email marketing solution like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp or Aweber or whatever, they naturally cleanse the lists for you. If people unsubscribe, they manage that for you. If you get hard bounces, they manage that for you. But you have to keep sending. And if you're like, okay, well, I'm going to send an email out once every 6 months or once a quarter, you're probably going to have problems with deliverability on your email because you're not sending frequently enough. And the thing is, email addresses change and go bad really fast. People buy a new phone. They no longer use the internet service provider that they originally signed up for. If you're using personal email addresses, those email addresses go bad really fast. If you're using business emails, where you're sending an email to somebody in a business and you've got that email address, well, guess what? People change jobs. Sometimes companies screw up and do change their email addresses. Sometimes they put filters and tools in place to prevent emails from being delivered, especially when they don't see that you've gotten email from that sender before. So you can't just say, oh, great, I just got 250 contacts out of my QuickBooks. I'm going to go blast them an email. You're asking for trouble. You're asking for even more trouble if you go buy a list and use that and send that out, especially from your domain-based email. You'll get shut down really quick, and then you may even run the risk of blacklisting your entire website domain. So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, one thing you said about the unsubscribe link is it varies by state. Some states don't require you to have an unsubscribe link, but you should always have that, because if I get an email from a solicitation company, whatever, that I don't want, I'll unsubscribe. But if you don't have that unsubscribe link, I'll mark it as spam. So,
well, yeah,
you run that risk by not having an unsubscribe link.
Right. And, when I get an email sent to me and it's from a non-business email, I automatically mark it as spam if I don't know that person.
I do too.
If they're really trying to solicit me, because that's just bad, stupid behavior. So if you're doing that, stop that right away. That's one of the worst things you can do. And honestly, I encourage everybody to, if you're getting email from billybob@gmail.com, mark that as spam. If that's not
Billy Joe Jim Bob,
something that you ask for, it's not a person, it's not a customer of yours, get rid of that stuff. Now, businesses have the right to send emails to other businesses. That's not a violation of terms, but that doesn't mean that you can just willy-nilly do it without any thought, load a big list and blast it out and expect everything to be good. You still have to go through a proper process to warm up your sending, and also kind of cultivate the, on the receiver side, get them to expect your emails to come in. You may need to even ask them, hey, make sure you whitelist emails that are coming from us so that they don't go into their spam box.
Yeah. And, a couple things you kind of touched on is you said a good CRM will manage the unsubscribed or bounced emails, but you should still go in and look at your statistics, because if you're getting hard bounces, yes, a good CRM will manage that for you, but you might want to reach out to that customer and say, hey, especially if it's a current customer and their email bounces, you might want to reach out to them and say, hey, we apparently do not have the correct email address for you. What's your email address? And, every sender has a reputation in sending history. And this goes back to warming up your list. And if you just decide one day to start sending out a bunch of emails without warming up that list, like you said, that looks suspicious to the email servers, and they could start marking it as spam and even blacklist you. And you definitely don't want that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the reason you want to have an unsubscribe link is because it's way better for you as an email sender to have somebody unsubscribe from your list than mark it as spam, because the threshold to be seen as a spam emailer is really low. It's like what, 4 in 1,000 are marked
Yeah.
as spam. Then you're on a suspicious list, and if it's more than that, you may automatically be shut down. And if it's a consistent problem after you send a couple of batches of emails and you haven't fixed that problem, and people are marking it as spam instead of unsubscribing it, and like you said, it's a great idea, Paul. Look, just because emails fail, you still ought to go in and look at them, because you might have a really valuable customer that maybe when you typed in the email address to whatever system you put it in, whether it was into QuickBooks and then you exported it out and imported it into your email marketing system, or if you just typed it directly into your email marketing or CRM system, you may have, I mean, I do this all the time. I transpose letters and numbers. I may have screwed it up when I typed it in and put it in the first place. So you can't, I mean, you want to try to preserve valuable contacts. So this isn't stuff that's just set it and forget it. And I think that's part of the problem and the mentality with people with email marketing is like, oh, I can just go buy this list, or I've already got this great list that I got from a friend of mine, and I'll just blast it out, and I'll send out 5,000 of these, and surely I'm going to get 20 people saying, hey, we need to hire you, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you might be lucky if 20 people got it actually received in their inbox, if that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Unsubscribes don't hurt you nearly as much as hard bounces, because those hard bounces they're soft bounces. And, even if you have a list, if you've had this list for a while, you should send it through an email cleansing service.
Yeah, because email addresses go bad super fast.
Since we're talking about the rules around, compliance rules and spam, I think it's really important for businesses to understand too that the rules that you're governed by, the CASL rules in Canada and some other places, and the CAN-SPAM rules in the US in general, right? Those are actually governing the recipient of the email. So they govern you as the sender of the email, but you as the sender of the email as a business are actually governed by where the recipient is. And so a lot of businesses don't understand that. They think I can send, because I'm located in this state, I'm only governed by CAN-SPAM. But if you're emailing into Canada, you're actually governed by CASL rules, which are far different. And you need to be super, super careful about that, because the fines for all these compliances have gone up considerably over the last 10, 15 years, because it's a serious issue, and governments are getting more serious about putting the fines very restrictively on people.
Yeah, great point.
So Ian, for email marketing to be effective, you have to create effective campaigns. So any thoughts on that?
Nope.
Okay, that's what I thought. Moving on.
Moving on. No. Yeah, of course I do. So I think Ken covered some really good points in there in what he was talking about. The one thing I would add to that at the front end is that you really need to have a plan, right? We talk a lot about strategies and developing plans on this podcast. And the reason is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And yes, you can send out emails, one email campaign, but as anybody who's done any kind of marketing knows, you cannot do simply one campaign and expect great results, right? It's all the statistics show, the traditional statistic for print advertising or even TV advertising was it takes 7 impressions before somebody takes an action, if they're predisposed to an action, right? But
I think it's even higher than that now because of all the touch points.
Yep. It definitely has gone up.
In certain industries, like buying a car, it's like 25 to 35.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's important for the business owner to understand you really need to take a longer term view of this, not just of this type of marketing, but of any marketing, in order to understand if it's going to be effective for your business, as the statistics prove email marketing is. And so you really need a plan, and part of that plan is having goals and objectives, and of course measurements. And then part of that plan, I think we use this a lot in our business for helping our clients in multiple areas of their marketing, but editorial calendars. So really mapping out, what is it we're going to be talking about in our email campaigns for our clients or for our own business throughout the year, because what we're looking for is really what value can we bring to the recipient, our ideal customers, and your ideal customers. That's what you should be thinking about as a listener, is what can I bring of value that's going to make them want to, first of all, open the first email. And I think Ken's going to talk about, how you can get people to actually engage with your emails more in a little bit. But you need to get them, you need to make sure it's valuable to them, or else you're just wasting your time, right? You're doing it for your sake and not their sake, and that's going to crash and burn pretty quick. But you need to also, Ken talked about segmenting your list, right? The more you can personalize or segment your list, the more you can personalize and segment the message. So if you know that people that come to your website and have signed up to get your emails are interested in a particular service or product that you provide, and if you can send them information in your email directly related to what their interest is, your open rates are going to go up, your click rates are going to go up, and ultimately your return on investment is going to go up. And crafting subject lines that are compelling, email content that speaks to your target audience, writing concise messages. It needs to be concise, right? People don't have a lot of time. Make sure it's concise. Use bullet points, use headings, use eye-catching visuals if you're going to throw something in there as well, from a visual standpoint. And make sure that I see this all the time, maybe you guys do as well, but make sure your emails are optimized for mobile. Oh my goodness. I get email campaigns from like good quality professionals, but when I look at it on my smartphone, it's tiny type, right? I have to zoom in and it's not adjusting to the margins, and it's a horrible experience. I'm turning my phone sideways. I'm trying to read this thing because I know the content's valuable, but they're making it really hard for me. So make sure it's mobile optimized. And then, to really make it an effective campaign, and to make sure that your next steps in the campaign are effective as possible, you need to be testing. You need to be monitoring the results of them. And I think we'll be digging more into the data of email campaigns in a little bit, but you need to be tracking, and you need to have that data at your fingertips in order to understand, what emails, like we look at that from a podcast standpoint. Paul talked about how email marketing is a popular topic on this podcast. And the only reason we know that is because we look at the analytics, right? Yeah. We know how many people have viewed it, and we know what the interest levels are. And so that's an important part of email marketing as well, is that if you see interest in a particular topic, do more emails on that topic. But those are a few points that I think can help you make more effective email campaigns for sure.
Hey, you had mentioned visuals in the email, and visuals are good, but one thing you probably don't want to do is, and I see this as embedding a video in your email, because that triggers spam filters.
Yeah.
And it can cause an otherwise good email to be sent to spam. And, going back to something Ken talked a little bit about, segmenting your list, a good CRM will allow you to tag your emails or your contacts. Because let's say you're a remodeling company and you do kitchen remodeling and bath remodeling and basement remodeling. Well, using a good CRM that allows you to tag your contacts, if you did a kitchen remodel for a customer, you can tag them, and then you can send a very specific email out about bathroom remodeling. Because if you're sending these emails out, and you don't want to send an email about kitchen remodeling to someone that you just did a kitchen remodeling project for a month ago, you want to segment that list. And that's what we mean by segmenting the list. So that's something else to keep in mind. So Ken, in order to send these campaigns, you have to write the emails. So
Right.
what can small businesses do to write emails that get open and read instead of delete?
Right. Yeah. So the first thing is, I think it's important to realize that there are different types of emails. I mean, we're lumping this all in one big bucket, right? But really, I think there are three core email types that you need to be thinking about. Transactional, which is where somebody, maybe they place an order, you send an email back to them, and it may have instructions on, okay, thanks for your order. Here's what to expect. Here's the tracking number. Sign up, to register your product, whatever those kinds of things might be. Then you've got relational, which are really the adding value and providing content to help somebody solve their problem, like an email newsletter, those kinds of things. And then you've got promotional. And so promotional, you can send an email out to say, hey, this week only 35% off whatever, or buy one, get one, or whatever it might be. So you have to start with, the premise of what is the type of email that I'm sending it to and who am I sending it to? Now, once you know that, then the subject line is critical. It's absolutely critical, because a lot of people may not even open up that email. They may just look and see subject line. Okay. I do this all the time. I sign up for a lot of emails from people that I want to get their emails from. I read less than 10% of those emails. I don't have time, but I want to know if they are, like a hot topic right now is, how can you get the most out of, AI, like a Chat GPT? If they tell me a compelling reason about how they've maybe cracked the code on using, Chat GPT to do something that, that is of interest to me, they're going to tell me that in the subject line, and I'm going to open that email and I'm going to scan it. And if I like what I see, I'm going to dig into it and read it in more detail, right? So the subject line is what gets the emails opened. It's not the worst thing if people don't open your emails. Don't think that that's a bad thing. You want to stay in their inbox over and over and over again. They'll tell you if they don't want it. They're either going to mark it as spam, which hopefully they won't do because they ask for the emails. And so hopefully they'll go through procedurally the right way to do it, which is, and some email marketing tools are smart enough to kind of figure out, are people just being lazy and marking it as spam because it's easy to do that? Or do they really just want to unsubscribe? If people don't want to get those emails, they'll unsubscribe. So, but to get them to open it, it's absolutely critical. So how do you write a good headline? Well, the same thing kind of applies in certain respects. Any good copy that you're going to write, where you've got a heading, a headline. Think of an email as a newspaper article. Are you going to read that article if it's not an interesting headline when you read it? Well, the subject line is kind of your headline. So, have urgency, scarcity. Make it clear that you're giving something of value, information of value. Pique people's interest. Use power words or trigger words. One of the great things to do is to use a number. 7 ways to improve the life of your roof. Might be a good article that you in a newsletter that you might want to send out. It could be the same as maybe even one of the core blog posts that you wrote that month. But just because you wrote it and put it on your website doesn't mean that people are going to read it and see it, because not everybody's going to your website. But if they're on your list, you could say, hey, we just wrote this great article about ways to maintain and improve the life of your roof. A lot of people are going to find that valuable, and they're going to go read that article. We've talked about personalization and segmentation. Again, you've got to know who you're sending it to and why, and make sure that you're sending relevant content to them. That's the fastest way to drive people away. If you're sending them content that has absolutely nothing to do with what they are interested in or care about, then they're gonna unsubscribe. Um, ideally, and if not, they may get lazy and mark it as spam. Ian mentioned this. You want to make it really easy to scan. You want to use short sentences. You don't want to use large paragraphs. You need to make it super scannable. You got to use visual elements. It could be the graphic layout, and the coloring of different sections to draw people's eye to flow through the content, depending on how long your email newsletter is. Using images. Paul, you talked about you don't want to embed a video, but what you can do is you can grab a screen snapshot with a play button, put that in as a picture, hyperlink that picture, so where when people, because some people are just going to say, oh, that's a video, they're going to click on it, and boom, now you're opening up, the website or the web page where that video lives, but you're not embedding the video. So you can still use.
That's exactly what you should do.
That you're still using the implication of, hey, I've got a video in this email, but you're not putting the video in the email. but which is great, because people love video. I mean, and video is such an educational thing. You want to do that. You just need to do it, through a picture and having that picture hyperlink out to where the video lives, which is not inside your email. And then you've got to have really clean and compelling calls to action. Ideally, I think relevant to what the topic is of that email that you sent out. So if you're doing an email newsletter, and the featured article of that edition is, how do I know if I'm doing the right things with my business's marketing? And then you have a call to action that is schedule a marketing strategy session, or a discovery call, or a marketing strategy audit, whatever you might call it, and make it really relevant to what people are looking for, based on the core or the lead subject or primary article in your emails newsletter. Those are really the things that jump out at me. I mean, you don't want to use gobbledygook language. You don't want to use super technical language. You need to use the language of your customers. You need to be all about delivering value, solving problems, giving, and solving that problem could be somebody knows that they need to buy a CRM for their business. Okay, well, maybe the way that you're solving or you're providing value in that particular email is, this month only, sign up and get the first 3 months for 25% off, to test it out, or 14-day free trial. But yeah, you look, email works because it's based on trust. And if you violate that trust in any way, and this is where clickbait, is really a bad idea in email. It may get people off of social media onto your website. They may bounce right away, so it may be actually more harmful than it does good. But you don't want to use clickbaity emails. Now, that's not to say you can be clever and have an email that with a subject line that's maybe a little bit controversial, so that people will say, "Oh, whoa, wait a minute, you should never own your own website." Really? Why is that? And then if you have an article that talks about the pros and cons and things like that, and the body of the email or leading out to a blog post that really explains that, that's not the worst thing. You want to rely on controversy, because that's piquing somebody's interest to say, wow, really? Why I better go check this out. Maybe they're going to tell me something I don't really know. And you could actually use it as a way to prove your point, to say, no, see, this is all crazy talk. You really do need to have your own website and you need to own it. But yeah, those are just some thoughts. I don't know, Ian, what do you think? Especially around using the controversial subject line to get people to open up the email. You got to be careful with it.
Sure you do. Yeah, no, I'm not against it. I think you have to be absolutely careful and very respectful of people. But I think if your point of view is counterintuitive sometimes, you can come at it that direction, or yeah, just saying something that's a little bit controversial can get them to open it, and then gives you the platform to then speak about it. But I would never do anything clickbaitish that's deceiving, because I think that, just as you said, Ken, it's all about trust.
Yeah.
One of the other things I'd add too is we do this an awful lot in our email campaigns for ourselves and our clients, but we personalize subject lines. So which is super easy if you have a good CRM, right, where you just add in the field and Ian or Ken, check out our latest whatever, right? And so statistics say that increases open rates up to 26% on average. And so that's pretty powerful, right? If you can make it a compelling subject line and then add personalization to it, that's just something that will add to the effectiveness and the success of your email campaign for sure.
Yeah. And your email, it needs to be consistent with the personality and the image of your brand.
Yep.
So if you're going to say something that's like super controversial, and you've never done that before, or you're
Yep.
trying to be really playful with something, it may actually hurt you more than help you. So it really all comes down to, do people really identify with your business and your brand in a particular way, and do they expect information from you in a particular way? And if you violate that, again, I think you're running the risk of violating the trust.
The beautiful thing though with any of these types of things is and I don't disagree with you at all, Ken. I was just thinking, the beautiful thing about whether it's an advertising campaign or whether it's an email campaign, where you have we're going to move into metrics pretty soon, but in our discussion, but if you have metrics at your touch of at your fingertip print, what am I trying to say? The words aren't coming to
At your fingertips.
At your fingertip. If you have the metrics at your fingertips, you can run something and be a little bit controversial and see, like, do open rates go up? Do open rates go down? Do clicks go up? Do clicks go down? Right? You have, just like you do with an ad campaign where you can do some A/B testing with subject lines and that kind of stuff. You can do that in email campaigns, and it helps you understand better about what is attractive to your target audience. And without the metrics, you can't do that.
Yeah. One metric that I do want to share before we get away from it is just the ROI metric of email marketing, why you should be doing this. I mean, the average across, email marketing platforms for all industries is 4,400% return on investment. 4,400% return on investment. I mean, that's ridiculous. Nothing comes close. Now, we've talked in the past about text marketing. It has performance statistics that are better than email marketing in terms of open rates and click-through rates and things like that. Does it drive the return on investment in total that email does? Probably not, because email is really universal and can be usable by almost every business as a way to grow and generate more business. Text marketing in certain niches really isn't that appropriate, for generating new business. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that's got a return on investment that's like that.
And there's another layer of statistic to add on top of the 4,400%, is that one size fits all campaigns versus segmented campaigns. The DMA, Direct Marketing Association, did a study on this and found that segmented campaigns, where you're dissecting it and delivering messages specific to the person's interests, like we've spoken about, gets an additional 760% ROI. So, man, use email and then segment it. If you can't do the segmenting at the start, just start doing email campaigns that make sense, and then start to develop the rigor to be able to segment as you go.
Yeah.
And something, Ken, that you mentioned is value and relevancy. Obviously, the purpose of email marketing is to promote your product or service, but you also want to keep in mind that if every single email you send is all about selling, people are going to unsubscribe. You have to add value. And, as counterintuitive as it sounds, you actually, and I think, Ken, you mentioned this, you actually want to make it easy for people to unsubscribe so they don't mark it as spam. And Ian talked about personalization. Again, a good CRM will help you do that. So that's why, as a business, you absolutely need a CRM. So, Ian, we talked about this a little bit. Analyzing your email marketing. How do you know it's effective? What are the metrics to look at? And where do you get these statistics?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'll start with where do you get these statistics, because that's a pretty easy answer for the most part, although it can get more complicated, and I'll share why. But usually it comes out of your CRM or your email, your bulk email system, right? So if you're using a MailChimp or something like that, it will have statistics by campaign, and then usually by overall, like how are all of your campaigns working. And so, and then a CRM system gives you even more data because it's actually connecting the email data to the customer user data, right, where you get a lot more information. But where to go for it is in the system where you're sending the emails from. Why I said there's some additional information is, if you're using integrated systems like what you guys were talking about, where you I use this all the time. I use this program called Dub, and Dub allows me, it's kind of like a Loom type video where I can do little video clips. I can embed them in emails, not the actual video, but a GIF or a GIF, however you want to pronounce that. But it shows a little animated me, wiggling my head or moving my hands or something, which increases click-through rates on that video. But the analytics of that is beautiful in that not only do I have the email analytics, then I also have the video analytics through the Dub platform where it says, oh, this person actually clicked on the video GIF or GIF. They went to the video, they watched the video, they watched X percentage of the video, and there's call to actions, and they took this action, right? So there's all sorts of data that you can view. Similarly, if you use some sort of proposal software or something like that, and it gets embedded in your emails, there's usually a lot of data analytics on that platform as well. That usually isn't integrated into the email systems themselves. So, that can further help you understand the effectiveness of the emails you sent out. But some really key metrics that you need to pay attention to as a business that's using email for connecting with your audience is open rates. Like, that's kind of the first step. Is somebody opening your email in order to go in and see what's inside? They essentially, the first gate, as Ken was talking about, is the subject line. If they get through the first gate and they click open, you need to know that. You need to understand what that open rate is. Is it rising and falling each month or each time you send out a segment of this campaign? And these kind of metrics are really valuable because, from a segmentation standpoint, you'll be able to dissect like which segments are more responsive, which email messages are more responsive to that segment. But then overall, like, we find the trending factor of email campaigns really valuable. So not just the open rates, but if we have a call to action, which you should always have in an email, what's the click-through rate of that email? And then if you're able to then, and this is where a good CRM can get very powerful, is what's the actual conversion rate? So, if it's a product that you're selling and you're selling it online, there should be ways to immediately tell that something was sold and that sale came through that email, and that will tell you the conversion rates. When you have a longer tail sales process, then it's really about how can I integrate that information in the system, and some really good CRM systems allow that, and so you can be able to see conversion rates and that kind of stuff. You talked about subscriber engagement. So, are people being are they engaging more in our emails month to month? Or is that diminishing? Are people unsubscribing at a faster rate? Even though that's not always the worst thing, because sometimes if somebody doesn't want to be getting your emails, it's better that they don't get your emails. But you should be tracking unsubscribe rates. A/B testing. If you can do, again, we're getting into more sophisticated stuff, right? The first step is to actually deliver some email campaigns.
What is A/B testing?
Sure. So that's basically delivering a measured amount of email version A to a group of people on your list, and at the same time delivering email B, a different version of your email. So usually you don't want to change too much in the email, because then you don't know what actually was effective and what wasn't effective. But it's really common to try different subject lines or different calls to actions. But usually we recommend just switch one thing up, because then you'll know what that one thing was that determined the effectiveness of A versus B. But yeah, it's really just a way for you to try two different versions. And you can, in some software, you could actually say, for depending on the size of your list, for 2% of my list, send A. For 2% of my list, send version B. And then after that 4%, the 2 and the 2, send the winning one out to everybody else. So you just raised your potential effectiveness rate of your overall campaign because you did some A/B testing. There's less sophisticated systems. I mean, certainly you could send out, manually do it to one portion of your group, your email list, version A, and another half of your list, version B, and then you can manually dissect that data, but it's much harder. So.
So when you're A/B testing, like you said, you can manually do it, or you can have a system that does it for you. So when you look at those statistics, are you looking at open rates? What are you looking for when you start analyzing that data?
It depends what you changed, right? So if your subject line is the exact same, the open rate should be virtually identical. If you change the subject line, yeah, open rates is your key metric that you should be looking at for the effectiveness between those two versions. If the thing you were testing was the call to action, then you would look at the click-through rates, right? Because that would tell you, okay, this version A outperform version B because we changed the call to action, which is the key click-through, and that's what that's why it performed better. There's other things you can play with, but though I would say, at the most basic, those are the two metrics that you should be playing with the most from an A/B testing standpoint, is your subject lines, your call to action, and then the third would be the actual message, the body of the message or the content within your email.
All right, good stuff. So I'd like to get some input from both of you on this one. How we talk a lot on this podcast about the customer journey. How can email marketing help move people along that customer journey? So Ken, start with you.
Okay. So I think it's a great way for people to start to build a relationship with you. And it's a fairly low risk way to do it. So you can get people into your list by giving them something of value. It could be downloading a checklist, an ebook, signing up for a webinar, taking advantage of a special discount that maybe you're running. Just depends on the nature of your business and the products and services that you sell. But you want to get them in. They don't have to make a purchase, although they could make a small purchase, as well to try you out. But you're building that relationship. So you need to have a plan, as Ian said. How are you going to continue to stay in contact with your new contact that has joined your email list? And so, if they, depending on the nature of what they're doing, if they sign up for your newsletter, just deliver the newsletter that you told them you were going to deliver. Give them that value in advance. And I think education is one of the biggest things that you can do with email marketing. Is you can help people maybe self-identify and accurately describe a problem that they're having that maybe they couldn't really formulate and identify exactly what it was before, to the point where now they're like, okay, I better call these people. I need some help. And so education, I think, is fantastic. And it's a great way to build know, like, and trust. But then also, I mean, I don't want to steal all the thunder, but with lead nurturing, the whole purpose is to get somebody from the point where they raise their hand and they say, hey, I'm kind of interested in learning more, but I don't want to talk to you yet, to the point where they're ready to talk to you. And ideally, they're ready to buy from you. And then you get into the whole reactivation side of things. And so now you're down at the bottom of the marketing hourglass. You flip it over, and you're getting customers to make repeat purchases from you, because reactivation is getting a customer who's bought from you before to come back and buy from you again. And oh my gosh, what a powerful thing. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I've worked with hundreds of businesses throughout my career, and I could tell you on both hands how many of those businesses have actually done a real reactivation campaign. And it blows my mind, because it is the cheapest, most effective way. Once you build a list and you've maintained that relationship, reactivation, it drives me nuts. I mean, so I'm going to tee up, an upcoming podcast. We've got, the fourth installment of the things that bug us. And that's one thing that really bugs the heck out of me, is why can't we get through to people the importance of database reactivation? Database reactivation is done by typically email, maybe text marketing, and you can only do it if you have a list. So I'll let you jump in now, Ian.
And, Ken, something you said, it just made me think about this. You talked about if someone do what you say you're going to do, because Randy, you know who I'm talking about, he had on his website sign up for our newsletter, and he had people sign, but he never once sent out a newsletter. So he had people actually sign up for a newsletter that he never sent out. So do what you say you're going to do. So
yeah. And yeah, I mean, if people are signing up for a newsletter because you say we're going to provide you with information on these 5 topics, or whatever, keep it at that. I mean, you might be able to expand it a little bit here or there, but 99% of the content that you should be sharing probably should be related to the reason people signed up for that in the first place.
Probably a good idea. So Ian, any thoughts on how email marketing can move people through the customer journey?
Sure. You know me, I always have thoughts. So I wanted to reinforce what Ken said. It is all about relationship. So just like the example you were giving, Paul, where somebody puts on their website that if you want to get up-to-date information of news, tips, whatever, then click, give us your email address and your name, click here, and we will send that to you. First of all, you've broken that relationship because you didn't keep your promise. But second of all, think about your business. If you were talking with somebody in person and you promised to give them something, you better darn well give them something, because you've started that relationship, and it's a little bit more obvious because you're looking at them eye to eye. But as a business owner, man, you need to take this really seriously and not think of it as, it's just email. I'm just going to send this stuff out or maybe not send it out in the case you talked about, Paul, but you need to take it seriously, because the people that sign up for your email, other than spammers that, for whatever reason want to get on your list, which happens sometimes, but the people that actually sign up, they're giving you a value exchange. They're saying, geez, man, I'll give you my email address and my name, but I expect value in return. And people are far more shrewd or far more savvy when it comes to giving out their email addresses today, because nobody wants to receive spam, right? So if somebody's willing to do that, then you need to take that pretty seriously. The other thing is, and Ken alluded to this, but I just wanted to remind people about what that hourglass looks like, in that, and first of all, remind people, if you've heard some of our other podcasts or read John Jantz's book called Duct Tape Marketing, it's really about the it's really about the journey that someone takes when they're looking for a product or service, that and it's pretty universal, right? You can skip steps occasionally, but rarely. And so somebody has to know you and know your business in order to like your business, in order to try your business, in order to buy from your business, in order to repeat purchase and refer to you. So it's just this journey that people naturally go on. And you as a business owner need to understand this journey, because you're going to say different things at different stages that the people are at. Because it's kind of like, we've all heard this analogy that, if somebody is at the know stage, they need to know about you. It's kind of the equivalent of, they're trying to see if, if you take the dating scenario, they just met you at a party or something like that, but they're not ready to get married to you. So you need to, at least not for the most part. So you really need to make sure that your message is appropriate for where they are at in the relationship, right? You don't want to jump the gun. You don't want to assume that they're further through their journey than they are. And you need to just send them appropriate information. And, there's different things that you can do in order to help lead them along this journey. And email is just such a good platform for doing that. Can you talk a little bit?
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, please.
Can I jump in? So
Yep.
That's great. And I absolutely agree with that. But I think you'll also agree with this, that that's the approach you want to take, but also have an easy little shortcut to where some people are going to be ready to say, you know what, I'm in, and just make that easy. And you can do that really easily without being obnoxious in your emails. I know
I agree 100%, Ken. And that's an assumption I always have, just because that's what we do, but you're right. So I think just to kind of say it in a different way, Ken's saying you need to always have like a fast track call to action in case somebody is ready to buy it. And I absolutely agree with that. I think that's a really good point, Ken.
So for the most part, you're saying don't be Raj from The Big Bang Theory, where he meets a girl in a coffee shop and he's ready to get married.
Correct.
Or he can't speak.
Well,
so
he's drinking.
You don't send the email that you promised people.
Just a couple of things I wanted to draw out in a little bit more detail. Ken you talked a little bit about nurturing, right? I think nurturing is probably one of the things that businesses do really poorly for the most part. And what I mean by that is, if you understand not just the buyer's journey, but actually the sales process that you go through as a business, and where your opportunities are, first of all, to connect with a prospective buyer, a prospective customer, patient, client, and then the steps. So as an example, I think an example will probably spell this out a little bit clearer, is in a lot of consultative type businesses like our own, but this is true in a lot of businesses, professional service businesses, is that you have an initial introductory meeting or free consultation or discovery call, whatever you want to call it. And then you usually do some sort of strategy session or proposal presentation opportunity, or solution presentation, right? Where you're in the first one, you're saying, okay, tell me about your business, what your problems are, what your challenges are. I'll come back to you with my recommendations. A lot of businesses don't do any kind of nurturing or message reinforcement between those two steps, or the next step after the proposal is win or lose the proposal, right? And I think email lends itself so well to being a nurturing process where you can continue to reinforce, continue to educate people and inform them. And really the whole purpose of that is to position you as the ideal solution to their problem, right? At each of those steps. Because as businesses, we often assume, I said it, so they must remember that we do that, or that we do it differently than the competition. But that's not really fair, right? We've all been in sales presentations and stuff, and we're being bombarded by new ideas, and some of them are life-changing ideas, and there's a big boom, and we go away thinking, wow, these are the guys. But then other messages are hitting us between then and when we make the decision. So you really owe it to yourself as a business to think about, how can we nurture this relationship after our key touch points with the prospect.
Yeah, and that's, you talk about nurturing people through this journey. If the larger ticket item you have, the more money you're asking people to spend, the longer that journey is going to be, and the more important that whole nurture thing. If you're selling something that costs $10, it's like, okay, it's $10, whatever. If you're asking people to spend $50,000-$60,000 on something, that's going to be a much longer sales process, generally speaking.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
Anything we missed? Any parting thoughts on this? We're coming up on an hour here.
Just start doing email marketing and do it the right way. Hire somebody that's going to be your guide to get you doing this the right way. It's going to be one of the most valuable things you can do for your business. And don't let your personal biases on emails that you're getting dictate what you decide you want to do from a business marketing perspective. Because if you don't like getting emails and you decide, well, I'm not going to send emails to my clients, you're leaving massive amounts of money on the table. And honestly, I'm sure your competitors love you for it.
Yeah. My parting thought is, just remember that people that sign up to your email list or have a relationship with you as a business, they've essentially invited you as a guest, right? You are an invited guest, not an unexpected pest. So keep that in mind, and use your opportunity to present your thoughts to them in a way that is respectful. And I think it'll go a long way. But as Ken said, just get started. I hate to say you're stupid or you're an idiot or anything like that, but as marketers, like in our own heads, we think that a lot when we see businesses that are not using the top performing return on investment opportunities and strategies, and email marketing is one of those. So yeah, as Ken said, put aside your biases, get some help, or just start doing it one step at a time, and you will reap the benefits of it, right?
And if you do it as an integrated marketing strategy, and you're using your content strategy to determine what blog posts do I need to write, what content do I need to have on my website to help me rank, but also to communicate to customers what problems I solve, what social media posts do I want to put out there in the world to let people know what we do, how we do it, the problems we solve, all of that kind of stuff. Email marketing should be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
You just have to do it.
Because you're already building the content, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Good ideas. This is probably a good place to wrap up. Ian, you want to take us out?
Sure. So please share this with other people that you think would find it valuable. And also, if you have any ideas or questions that you want us to answer as your marketing guides, we would love to get that kind of feedback from you. And until next week, keep calm and market on.